Welcome to Formula World. I am your temporary host, Blaze Hope, filling in for Dylan Shelley. Don't worry, he's not going anywhere. He's just unwell and can't do the voiceover. Get well soon, Dylan. First up on Formula World. Is this what is causing Williams' struggles? Many in F1 agree that some of the newer fans will find it very difficult to believe that Williams is a team that has won multiple world championships in the past. Many experts have tried to unravel the reasons behind this downward spiral, and former F1 driver Rubens Barrichello, who once drove for the team, has given his take on the matter. According to him, Williams has been trying to bring in as much money as possible and have thus preferred paid drivers over talented ones. Unfortunately, it has often been about money over the last 10 years. Instead of paying a driver, they thought it was a good idea to take money from drivers and survive. But if you see where the team is now, you know that wrong decisions were made back then. This, according to him, handicaps the team when it comes to car development, as an experienced hand is needed to properly develop a car. Many F1 experts agree that Williams wouldn't need paid drivers if they were financially secure. The team's deputy team principal Claire Williams spoke about this and the need for racing for teams like Williams. It's an extremely difficult position we're in at the moment, and that's why we have so much consultation with the team bosses. For us, racing is essential. We don't have large financial reserves, so we have to start racing as soon as possible, but if that is safe, of course. According to her, the business model of F1 is to blame for putting Williams in their current predicament. The model of F1 has been exposed by this crisis, and it is clear that something has to be done, because this is not sustainable in the long term. Survival is the most important thing for us now, and we are doing everything we can to make it happen. But it is even more important that soon we will have an organisation in which not everything has been in vain. Red Bull believes F1 will help save smaller teams. The smaller teams in F1 have been clamouring for a reduction in the budget cap, but it has been opposed by Red Bull and Ferrari. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner has given his take on why the teams have been demanding a reduction, which according to him has nothing to do with reducing costs. Teams are competitive beasts. Of course, they are looking to use an angle. It's more about competitiveness. It's about trying to bring the top teams down to a level where the midfield teams feel they can compete. He, however, feels that top teams will always find a way to stay at the front. The reality is that whatever the level of spend, there will always be teams that run at the front and teams that run at the back. He also spoke about the possible threat of losing the smaller teams due to the current crisis and feels that it is Liberty Media's responsibility to ensure that it does not happen. It could be an enormous blow, and at that point the promoter has to decide. It is their business. They have to decide how do they keep these teams alive, because they need teams to go racing. The Liberty guys would do whatever they can to ensure that 10 teams are on the grid and competing next year. In order to protect their own business, I believe they would help to facilitate, which means paying, to ensure that those teams would be around to compete next year. Steiner rejects Horner's plan for small teams. The survival of the smaller teams in F1 post the current crisis has been a cause of concern for many people associated with the sport. Many measures have been suggested for ensuring that all the smaller teams make it in one piece onto the other side. While the smaller teams have been calling for a low budget cap, Red Bull's Christian Horner had suggested a different plan, wherein the smaller teams could simply buy year-old cars from the larger teams and race with that. Haas's Günther Steiner is opposed to this plan, and he revealed why. That plan is not really relevant anymore because all teams have already found a way to work. To be honest, we don't need extra money, but we want the big teams to work on a smaller budget. That way, we can be more competitive. He then explained the major flaw in Horner's solution. We would then be customer teams, and so the larger teams would actually manipulate our performance as we would be driving a one-year-old car. He concluded by explaining how a budget cap would still keep the top teams ahead, but will ensure closer and more exciting racing. They will always stay ahead of us. With a budget cap, we still don't reach the budgets of the larger teams, but we are closer. Why Schumacher and Senna are not the greatest F1 drivers ever. The debate as to who is the greatest F1 driver ever is something that keeps many in F1 quite engaged. Two of the common names suggested often are Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna. However, former F1 team owner and commentator Eddie Jordan feels that neither of these two can be called the best ever. He began by explaining the one thing that he considers as a major shortcoming when it comes to Schumacher. Looking back at all the contracts I had to sign with Ferrari when Schumacher was sitting there, he was really talented, but there's one thing that speaks to him. In every contract I had to sign on behalf of Irvine, Barrichello or anyone else, there was a clause stating that they should always play the second fiddle to Schumacher. I wish he was the best, but he's not. He then explained why Senna doesn't take the plaudit either, before revealing his choice for the best ever. Of course, Schumacher has an extraordinary talent, but so did Senna. It's a tricky choice. I really don't think either one of them is the best driver I've seen. As for the best, I always come back to Alain Prost. People always say, "Are you serious?" But you have to take a good look. He's won the World Championship 4 times. On top of that, he also came close to 2 more titles. What I have always found special about him is that he is a real team player. Fast feed! Reigning world champion and Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton is expecting more competition when racing resumes, as the other teams had performed amazingly in the second part of the season last year. He also revealed that Michael Schumacher's record was never a goal for him, and that he is someone who doesn't think about records or anything like that. Renault's Daniel Ricciardo has revealed that a return to Red Bull is not something out of the question. McLaren's Carlos Sainz has said that he prefers not to react to the rumour about him joining Ferrari, as he is only focused on McLaren. It has been confirmed that Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff has indeed become an investor in the Aston Martin group and now owns just shy of 5% of the company. F1 Managing Director Ross Brawn believes that F1 needs a reset in terms of the costs and investments that are needed for F1, as there's too big a void between the front 3 teams. Former F1 driver Ralf Schumacher considers it to be quite a risk for Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel to leave for a team like McLaren and try to build it up, and that he is better off staying at Ferrari. Former F1 driver Nick Heidfeld thinks that BMW didn't want to put everything into Formula 1, because of which they really did not have the chance for a title, and that they quit the sport just as they started making progress. Stuart Pringle, the managing director of Silverstone Circuit, has revealed that F1 has asked them if they could maybe organise 2 races behind closed doors, which is something they are considering as an option. Former F1 commentator Eddie Jordan has called Eddie Irvine the laziest driver of all time, which he feels is a shame because he could have easily become world champion. Ahsan Shafriman Hanif, the CEO of the Sepang circuit, has revealed that bringing F1 back to the circuit is not his top priority at the moment, but if the opportunity comes by and the offer is good, he will consider it. The president of Imola, Selvatica Estense, is keen to capitalise on this current climate and said, "This situation is an opportunity for us to apply again for a Grand Prix." Williams' George Russell feels that Mercedes are a dominant force and every single driver in F1 wouldn't turn them down, not even Max Verstappen or Charles Leclerc. Alfa Romeo test driver Robert Kubica feels that Max Verstappen is very strong in every area and that he disagrees with the people who think that he drives recklessly. Haas team principal Günther Steiner thinks that Haas is gonna stay in the sport, as the team's owner Gene Haas wants to stay involved with the team. Are paid drivers the reason for Williams' downfall? Be sure to vote in the poll and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you liked this video, feel free to subscribe and check out my others for all the latest in the world of Formula 1.